Hello and welcome to Rebel Retrospective. I'm Kayla,
And I'm Tommy.
and this week we're starting with our new release, which is a Netflix original. Don't we love those?
Yes, we do.
This...
Mostly because they're the only films that are coming out at the moment.
Yeah, but there are other reasons to love them, right? Right?
Sure.
Regardless, this week we are going to be reviewing A Whisker Away, which is an anime film.
Yes, it is.
I love it. I think it's really cute.
So, I also think it's cute. I've just... My main issue is I've discovered, and I think I realised this when we also did Blue is the Warmest Colour. I struggle a little bit with subbed movies.
Oh.
So I think my focus, I just can't always keep the focus, so sometimes it's a little hard to follow. But
hold on a second. I'm pretty sure you can get I'm just checking it because I might be entirely wrong about it. But I'm pretty sure you could have got it no you can't. Never mind.
right, but it's fine. I watched it, and yeah, it's really cute. I like.
Yeah.
It's pretty. I like how pretty it is. It's really nice, and I like the song at the end.
That was really cute.
It just reminds me. There's a lot of songs I've heard like that in that style of music, and it's really nice. Would you like to explain what it is first? Because I've sort of just randomly picked things out without explaining what's going on.
Okay, so the whole idea of this film, and spoilers ahead, which I feel is okay to mention given that it's literally just come out, but, spoilers. The whole premise of the film is that there's this girl, Muge, and she's very over the top, and she's very big as a person, right? But she's having trouble at home, and life isn't really how she wants it to be, and she meets this, cat spirit, I think. And he, sells her a cat mask, so she can transform into a cat now. And she's got, this crush on this guy, and she goes round to his place as a cat.
Yes. She turns into a cat. It's great. It's great.
Yeah. She goes round to his place as a cat, and he, likes her as a cat, because obviously she's a cat. But in real life, it's
Which is really weird.
It's a little...
when you think about it.
Yeah.
When you, look at it, and you're like... She's almost, seducing him as a cat.
I mean, I guess. But, I don't know.
It's a bit strange. But it's charming.
It's
rather
charming.
Than strange.
Yeah. And...
in that very typical movie way.
And throughout the course of the film, she finds out that he's also having trouble at home, different troubles, and so in order to try and cheer him up, she confesses to him in real life, and it doesn't really go as planned.
No.
Some bullies kind of grab her letter before she can give it to him, and then they read it out loud, and it's really embarrassing for everyone involved. And he's like, I hate you, and that's it. She goes home that day and she's crying, and her human face falls off when she's a cat. Which sounds really weird, but it makes a lot of sense in the film.
But it just sounds so strange.
Yeah. I don't know how they managed to what's the word? Sell this to Netflix? I don't know. I'm really glad they did, because it's a fantastic film, but, how did they sell this? And her human face falls off, and the cat spirit thing that kind of sold her the cat face was like, whoop, this is mine now. You can't turn back into a human without your face, and I've got your face now.
Because that's how magic works.
Yeah. And then she realizes, oh, maybe the people in my life do care about me. Oh, the guy I'm into doesn't hate me. Oh, shit.
Or she could have just stayed a cat forever.
Yeah.
She could have just... that. When I was watching it, I was like, you could just be a cat. you know, you clearly everyone likes you as a cat, you know.
Yeah, but the whole
Be
point
a
of it
cat.
is she realizes that people like her as a human as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then also cat.
Yeah. Cat. Um, but she the her like stepmom's cat decides to become a human with her face, so that she can
Yes.
like be a wonderful daughter for her owner, I think, which kind of
And then
makes
everyone's like, something's wrong.
yeah
Like, this is not like, this doesn't make sense.
yeah
What's
she's
happening? Why are people different now?
yeah, which is pretty normal. And then the owner's cat realizes, well, the stepmother's cat realizes that a she doesn't want to be a human because it sucks,
Hmm.
and
Be a cat. That's the
b
answer.
she wants to be a
You know.
cat, and she realizes that Muge wants to be a human again, and so there's like this very intense last scene where they're like racing against the clock to try and get Muge her face back, and it gets real close,
Hmm.
like genuinely scary kind of close, um, and then she gets her face back, and this whole time her crush has been like helping the cat give her
Yeah.
face back, and they realize that they like each other, and then they kind of go home together, and it's really cute.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very cliche, but it's very cute.
I can't think of, I mean, I know it's cliche, but I genuinely can't think of another way that film would have ended.
No, it wouldn't have worked otherwise.
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't have made sense.
Yeah.
Otherwise, she like became a cat for no reason, and then almost stayed a cat for no reason.
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't make sense otherwise.
It just wouldn't have happened. So I have notes.
Notes. It's that time of the week. It's notes time.
So I have a note here which is she gets home, she goes upstairs. Someone asks her if she's okay, and then she's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And she just has like this fucking happy laugh fit just in her room. And this is her coming home from school, after she's just had like a really positive sort of interaction with her crush. And as someone who has been in that position before, I've done that. I have done that exact happy laugh fit. Like, the rolling on the floor, the kind of like kicking your legs, the squealing. Like, can confirm that's how it is. And I just thought it was a really cute, like, little detail to put in. Like,
Just a question, because, like, I guess it's kind of hard to tell in animation sometimes. Like, how old is everyone meant to be in this?
I think they're meant to be like, sort of mid to late teens.
Because I was sitting here thinking, like, these kids could be like 11, and it would make sense. And it's actually like one of those, like, adorable, like, young child crushes and relationships where you just like go into school holding hands, and that's like the relationship. And I was like, that would totally make sense with this.
It totally would, but they do reference going to high school. So that
Yeah,
ages
so it's probably a
them
little bit older.
about 16 or 17, I think, in the Japanese school system.
Yeah.
Hold on, I feel like I should look this up.
But yeah, I just think it would work really well if they were like 11, 12 years old. And it was like a first crush kind of thing. That would actually be really kind of cute, but you know. And then you get all the happy.
It would place them
laughs.
at about 14 or 15.
Okay.
So it's like, a young teen relationship, and it makes sense for that. It's really, really cute. It's very wholesome.
Yeah.
Other notes. I don't have all that many notes. Other notes are just perfect. Because as a cat,
Okay.
she just Perfect.
The cat's really cute. Let's just acknowledge. In fact, all the cats are really cute.
Yes. All the cats are adorable.
You know, cats are cute.
Cats are cute. So when she gets stuck as a cat for the first time, like, I sat there for like a solid like 10 minutes as she's walking around being like, oh god, I have to get my face back. Genuinely scared. Like, it is surprisingly scary. Like, can you imagine getting unexpectedly stuck as a cat? Like, I don't know. It really got to me. I was scared.
I imagine like the first hour would be really fun, and then like after an hour you'd be like, oh, what do I do now?
Yeah. Like, legitimately, I found that very scary. It's surprisingly scary for a really cute film. And the butt bump.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Fair enough.
I think it was really cute. I think it was like a nice way of showing the characterization of the character, like through physicality, which you don't get all that much in animated films. Like sometimes they do it really well, and sometimes it's all like dialogue. So, you know, I think it's nice to have that kind of physicality to a character, especially a female character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
That's my notes. That's it.
That's your notes. So I don't really have much to say other than it's really cute and it looks pretty.
Yeah.
That's all I can say is it's really cute and it looks pretty. And it's like everything that like the art, like, because anime art style is interesting anyway, but like I'm just in love with the it's a specific style of having the like matte paintings of the backgrounds, and then animating over the top of it.
Yeah.
And I just love that. It's very old school filmmaking when they used to like do matte backgrounds in paintings and then put stuff over it, like Star Wars.
Yeah, it's got a very sort of Ghibli feel to it.
And it feels magical because it feels like a little bit illusion-y and fantasy and a bit magical, and it's really nice.
Yeah. And the characters learned a lesson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Always good. But no, this is a film that you could watch with a kid. You could watch on your own. I would very much suggest watching it. I think that's
if you're in your kind of mid-teens, 14, 15, and you've got that special person in your life, you know, date night sorted.
Yeah.
Socially distanced, obviously.
If you're like in your 20s, like me, and you've got that special someone in your life that you're quarantining with, date night. Or even if you're not quarantining with them, watch it together via Zoom. Oh no!
Fantastic. It's only twice as expensive in terms of popcorn, so it's not that bad, you know.
It's not even like it's even then it's not really all that much more expensive. I don't know about you, but like if I'm watching a film with someone, I end up eating way more popcorn than on my own. Just because I'm nervous, because like, oh my god, I'm watching a film with someone. They're gonna start like judging my reactions to a film. Which basically tells you everything you need to know about me.
Oh, it's when you're watching a film, but you're actually watching the person who's watching the film with you's reactions.
Yeah.
That's so good. Except with me, it's always they're watching my reactions, because my reactions are the funnier ones.
They are. Oh my god, they are.
So yeah, it's always just I'm watching a film, someone's watching me watch a film.
Maybe you should just record yourself watching films. Maybe that would do really well.
It would be quite funny, yeah.
Oh my god.
Thought has crossed my mind before.
Alrighty then, moving on. What have I been watching recently? That's a very good question. I've been watching a bit of everything, but the thing I would like to mention is I've gotten back into watching Food Wars. Um, which
I was nodding my head there, and I was like, "Wait, you can't see
no,
that's I can't do visual gags."
no, you can't. So
Tommy nods their head.
But no, I've been watching Food Wars, which is anime. I'm revealing myself as a weeb. I know. But
I thought you did that like episode 1.
Did I?
Or one of the episodes. One of the ones, the TV shows you were watching, and it was anime, and you were like, "I'm exposing myself."
Oh. I really watched that much anime, but yeah, regardless. So Food Wars is... If you don't know about it by now, what are you doing with your life? If you watch anime at all and you haven't come across Food Wars, what are you doing? Good.
It really hurts.
Good. Watch Food Wars, Tommy. Do better. God. But it's several seasons long. It's on Netflix now, so that's why I started watching it again. Because I was watching it with an ex a while back, and then, we broke up and I stopped watching it because I got busy. But I've got back into it and it's really good. And the food looks amazing, and I love the look of animated food. I don't know. This is not a TV show to watch with kids. I know it's about foods, but it's really weirdly sexual in a very not sexual way. But don't.
As a podcast, we are catering to all ages of anime watchers.
Are we?
Well, we've done kids. Now we're doing adults.
I mean, I guess, yeah, but I swear,
okay.
like on a ridiculous amount. Like, why? If you are a child and you're listening to this, don't say the bad words. Don't do it. Unless your parents allow you to, and then, maybe don't. Anyways, save them for when you're older and are full of rage. Anyways, no, Food Wars is really good. It's quite irreverent, I guess is the word, and I have a couple of problems with it, like the way that boobs are animated. But other than that, it's really quite funny.
That's fair. So, what have I been watching? Well, so I'm one for rewatching things when something changes. So whether that's an extended cut of a movie or something like that. My most ridiculous one was when I went to see the Endgame extended cut, and nothing actually really changed in the movie.
Yeah.
So it was just like an extra 10 quid. Great. But basically, Netflix updated Hannibal by just generally raising the brightness of all the episodes. So of course that warranted a rewatch.
Okay.
Obviously.
I mean, don't see
normal
how
people
that's
do
obvious,
that?
but okay.
Don't normal people do that?
No.
So I've been rewatching Hannibal, and it's still possibly the best show I've ever seen. Maybe.
You seem really sure about that.
Like, it's either that. It's not my favourite show, but it's the best show I've ever seen. It's either that or Doom Patrol. And I've only had one season of Doom Patrol, and season 2 is out now. So, or some of it is. So I guess after season 2, I have to judge them, give them a face-off, which is better.
Okay.
It's a really good show, and it's not. You shouldn't watch it if you're squeamish or psychologically damaged, I guess.
I mean, I'm one of those
It's
two.
very messed up. It's very messed up. It will mess with your head.
I'm not squeamish, but I'm not psychologically, sound all the time, I guess.
It's one of those things where it, will make you think a certain way, and that can be, really negative.
Yeah, I
on
think
your head.
I think I'll leave it.
But, it's really good.
So should I watch it or should I not?
It's... In terms of production quality...
Oh.
It's amazing.
Okay.
In terms of character and story and it's amazing, but it's kind of like if it's gonna mess with your head, don't watch it. I've watched it enough times so it now doesn't mess with my head, but it's kind of like one of those things of how much do you self-identify with characters?
Oh, a fair bit.
Because it's like it's very much it's a psychological drama. Like,
okay.
That's what it is. So it's kind of like if you self-identify with characters too much, you'll kind of get into the show too much.
Okay.
Whereas if you watch it as like, oh, this is just a fun show that is really dark and psychologically driven, then you're like, this is good. Like, I'm getting really into this. Then that's not going to be great.
Oh, okay.
It's really good.
I think I'll give it a miss then.
It's really good though, and it's not too long either because it's 3 seasons of 13 episodes and then it got cancelled, so it's not too long either.
No.
Yeah, it's good, but it can mess with your head, which I guess is the point.
Yeah.
But it's really good.
Speaking of messing with your head, this week's Irredeemable is a film called Watchmen. And I started watching this film and I was like, why has Tommy gotten us to watch this film? And then, directed by Zack Snyder, and I was like, that's why we're watching this film, I understand.
Well, I said I was going to watch this film 4 years ago to one of my friends, and I just not watched it until now.
Good job.
Until now. So, it's kind of like... Yeah, okay. Everyone knows what Watchmen is. Like... Probably. Maybe?
Do they? I had
you
no
had no idea what
was
Watchmen is.
you...
Okay.
No.
Watchmen,
I kind of went into it,
Watchmen is a adaptation of a comic series from the late 80s written by Alan Moore, who... Basically, Watchmen is probably regarded as the greatest comic book of all time. It even ended up on a best, books list. That's how good it was.
Jesus.
So, yeah, it's an adaptation of that. The comic is 10 issues, maybe, I think. And it's basically been adapted into a 2-hour/3 hour film.
It's a 3-hour film.
The extended cut is a 3-hour film.
I think I watched the extended cut.
Yeah, there's 3 cuts of the movie. So, that's fun. One of the cuts has a load of animation in. There's it just...
I did not watch that one.
It intercuts with... Basically, there's a guy who's reading a comic book and he shows up every now and again. And in, the extended cut, they intercut with, animated versions of the comic book that he's reading.
Oh.
So it's kind of cool, but, it's a bit weird. The director said not to watch that version, so...
Oh.
Anyway, it's basically a alternative, future, I guess technically, but it's the past.
Yeah.
It's an alternative future of what would have happened if events in the 60s happened differently, and then basically changed the course of history in the Cold War and everything.
Yeah.
So, it's I don't know how to describe it. This is the problem. Would you like to have a go?
What, the entire film as a thing?
Just generally what it is. I'm really struggling.
Okay, so it's essentially it's a parallel it's an application of the multiverse theory, but applied to the mid-80s.
Yes.
So in this universe, Nixon has gotten a 3rd term. Which
yes. In the comics, it's the 5th term, which is why I guess he looks really old, because he wouldn't look that old. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
I don't know. But he's in power again. The US is on the brink of war with Russia.
Yes.
It's almost certainly going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
and there are superheroes.
Kind of.
Kind of.
Like,
there are
yeah.
vigilantes,
Yeah.
should we say.
There's the kind of whole premise behind it is there is only one superhero. Or, like, there's only one Superman, who is a character called Dr. Manhattan.
Yes. Who is interesting in many ways.
Yes. So it kind of the movie kind of opens with basically one of the Watchmen, who was also a member of the Minutemen, who were like a first generation of superheroes, and the Watchmen are like the second generation.
Yeah.
That called the Comedian is killed by an assassin.
Yeah.
And then it kind of goes through this title sequence where it's all kind of saying the alternative future and everything, like what the alternate timeline.
Yeah.
My favourite, there's a bit where one of the superheroes saves Bruce Wayne's parents from being murdered outside the opera theatre, thereby stopping Batman. So good. And yeah, so and then basically you follow a guy called Rorschach, who is a detective vigilante who is in
with a really cool mask.
The mask is amazing. Like,
I would like to talk about the mask for a second, actually.
Yeah, so they are real things. Like, you can get them where you breathe differently and it like changes the pattern on them.
Yeah, because I was watching that and I was like, how the fuck?
I think is CGI in the film, but like you can actually get them. They exist.
Because I was like, how on earth have they got that kind of technology in the mid-80s?
It's so good. And like I haven't read the comic in a number of years, and I can't remember how they portray that in the comics, because like it's such a moving visual thing. Like, I remember they portray it really well, but I can't remember quite how they did it. But yeah, so Rorschach.
Yeah, Rorschach. He named because his mask looks like a Rorschach test.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And he has got clear psychological issues from the get-go.
Yes.
You're like, this guy is not 100% there.
No.
He comes off as very paranoid, a little bit schizophrenic.
Yeah.
And just generally a little unhinged.
And he's the only one who's still like properly superheroing, because superheroes got outlawed.
Yep.
And like, so he's the only one really still going, like properly. So basically all the police are trying to arrest him and everything.
And it's just not happening because, well, Rorschach is really good at what he does.
Yes.
Which is kill people.
Basically, yes. So basically he's investigating the death of the comedian, because obviously they're all part of the same group. So they're all kind of friends.
Yeah.
Kind of.
So
he's investigating that, and he ends up going to his old partner's house, who is Night Owl. Dan or Night
Dan.
Owl. Who is another of the superheroes who's actually also like the second version of Night Owl. Like, there was a first version as well. And like the whole thing is like, Rorschach's like, something's happening, you know? Like, people are like supers are dying or whatever. There's a conspiracy. And we need to solve it, and Dan's like, shut up.
Dan's like, look, it doesn't matter. If we die, we die.
Yeah.
We'll still die later than if we'd stayed superheroes.
Yeah, I mean, like we're probably going to die from nuclear war anyway, so
yeah,
it's fine.
Who gives a fuck? Yeah.
Then we meet Dr. Manhattan and Laurie.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, Dr. Manhattan was human. And basically became crazy OP.
Yes.
Through a accident. I'm not really sure. Like, and I think it was
Yeah.
a quantum physics accident.
Yeah, so
sort of.
he went in to go get his watch, and they accidentally locked him in there, and then performed a scientific experiment on him.
Completely by accident. Like, they did not mean to lock him in there.
Yes.
It's just how it happened. And the whole thing about it is he, like, disappears. Like,
Yeah.
like, the electricity zaps him real bad, and he just up and disappears. So they have a funeral for him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he, like, reassembles himself.
Slowly over time, yeah.
Yeah, and he comes back.
And he's blue.
Really, really OP.
And he's blue.
And blue.
And glowing. It's great.
Yeah. So, you know, he's now a shiny blue superhero.
And doesn't know how to wear clothes.
Yeah, and doesn't know how to wear clothes. Or rather, does know how to wear clothes, just doesn't.
Yeah.
Because
Which is lifted
Why would
directly
you?
from the comic, because that's the thing in the comic. He just doesn't wear clothes.
Yeah. I mean, why would you if you're blue and muscled like that?
Yeah, exactly. And
Like this.
it's really impressive how they made it like behind the scenes, because they just put the guy in like a massive like Christmas lights suit, so that they could get all the real light reflection on all the people around him and everything. So good. They did the same thing in one of the Fantastic Four movies as well.
That's
really
fantastic.
cool technique. And he's dating
But yeah.
Laurie.
Yeah.
Who is the second iteration of the Silk Spectre. The first one was her mum.
Yeah. And there's like a whole thing there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, mum issues.
Yes.
We got those.
Yes. Everyone has. The whole point is in this, everyone has issues. That's like the whole thing.
Yeah. And it turns out that Laurie is like the comedian's daughter as well, but she's a product of rape, and there's like a whole thing about that.
Well, it's not. If I remember correctly, and I could be wrong, it's that the comedian attempted to, but it didn't work. But then, despite all of that, her mum still loved comedian, and they had a child together.
Yeah, I'm not really sure,
it's not,
but
it's
regardless,
very
it was very.
The comedian
it
is
was
a bad
fucked.
bloke. Like he shot
Yeah.
JFK.
Yeah, he shot JFK, he killed this random woman.
Yeah.
He seemed to delight in being in the Vietnam War, which is just like
so
many levels of fucked
So the whole
up.
thing with the JFK thing, because I love the whole JFK like continuity thing with the alternate timeline. In the comic, it's implied that he killed JFK, but in a prequel comic that came out like 20 years later, it was like, actually no, he liked JFK and he was somewhere else at the time. And it's also implied in the comic that he covered up the what's it called, I think it's the Watergate scandal.
Oh, okay.
Which is the one that I'm fairly sure ended Nixon's term as president. That's why in this universe he like continued being president. There's a whole it's the alternate history stuff is fascinating, just how they've done it. It's really good.
So now that we've covered the essential of the film, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is superheroes are fucked up, man.
Yes.
I didn't like this film.
Oh.
Sorry.
Oh.
I didn't like it. I found it very interesting. I don't regret watching it.
No.
But essentially, I didn't like it. Something to do with the way that the female superheroes are sexualized, maybe?
It's this kind of story is that the whole story of Watchmen is really progressive in terms of everything except the portrayal of female superheroes. That's the only thing that they didn't like. It's meant to be like this social critique on all the tropes in it in superhero genre, except they don't do the whole like stopping the whole female psychic and all of that that kind of trope.
Yeah.
Like,
it really felt very token female.
Yes.
Very
That's always been
female.
the problem. Like, she doesn't get developed as much as the other characters.
No. She doesn't get developed as much as the other characters, and she is, well, both Laurie and her mother are both crazy over-sexualized, to a stupid level, you know, like there is sexy, and then there is shoving your only female into tight-fitting spandex.
Well, so there's a couple of things. So her mum, I think, is better because that was intentional. She was like trying to be like this national sex symbol superhero. Like that was she wanted that, whereas she kind of forced her daughter into it as well. Which is not great. And then, what was I gonna say? I just forgotten.
Oh, there was one other female character, but she dies very, very quickly. And so she's a lesbian, and then she dies by someone. That's what I was going to talk about.
Crime. So
and I just...
they do. She's like they one of the Minutemen, the first gen, is like this LGBT icon in the 60s, which is really cool. But then, because this is a dark social critique on the state of the world in the 80s, inevitably she dies as a result of her sexuality. Which is like, when the comic came out in the 80s, was like a lovely critique on this and an idea of how we could progress in the future. But now looking back at it, it's like, okay.
So you just killed off your only LGBTQ character, who is also a woman. You
have to also remember this film is, I think, 10 years old. So it's like it's kind of an old-fashioned film, not drastically, but it is. So and it's obviously based on a comic from the 80s. So a lot of the beats are 80s, 80s. Kind of perspectives.
Yeah.
But I like that Laurie ends up with Dan. So that's so she has this whole thing. Dr. Manhattan is a bit of a jerk because he's omnipotent. So it's a bad boyfriend. And so she ends up with Night Owl, who is he's a bit of an anxious, nervous kind of bit of a kind of I don't have any confidence kind of thing. Like, you see him, he's always liked Laurie, but never been able to do anything about it. But then they end up together and they're happy. And it's like, oh, that's actually kind of wholesome.
Yeah.
In this movie that is intense.
Yeah, intense is one way of putting it.
It's so some of the other things, Rorschach, I think he is fantastic in terms of the portrayal of Rorschach. You could tell it's a pretty much flawless adaptation of Rorschach. And it's really good. Shall we talk about villains?
Yes, let's talk about villains.
Because basically the villain is Ozymandias, and it's not a surprise. It's blatantly in the comic he's this smooth talking really nice guy, and it turns out he's evil, and it's whoa. But in this, he's just.
But it's not even that he is evil.
No, he's.
It's kind of
totally the whole point of the story is literally that it's right. He's right.
Yeah.
But in a very dark, sadistic way.
Yes.
There's a word for it. Is it altruism? Something like that.
Maybe.
Basically, he sacrifices millions of people to save the world. Basically. He frames Dr. Manhattan for killing all these people, which unites the world.
Dr. Manhattan is just okay with it.
Yeah, Dr. Manhattan is you know what, you're right, which is perfect because obviously he would know.
Yeah.
And then he's so basically they all come together at the end, and it's Ozymandias is like, I've destroyed these kind of major cities. I've killed these people, but now America and the Soviet, they've all united to fight Dr. Manhattan. And Dr. Manhattan's like, that's good. Okay, I'm just gonna go into space and make some new life somewhere.
Yeah.
And then all the other characters are like, what do we do?
And half of them are like, you know what, fuck it, we're just gonna leave it alone. And then
because
Rorschach
is like, no, I've got to tell them, because he's like, no compromise. That's kind of his whole thing. And so Dr. Manhattan's like, fine, I'll blow you up.
Yeah, so he just blows the fucker up.
And then Night Owl,
which seems kind of like a mercy killing almost.
Yeah, and then Night Owl is kind of, I think he's not on board with it, but also like he's angry about Dr. Manhattan killing Rorschach, so he's like mad at Ozymandias. But then he's fine with it because him and Laurie just kind of leave.
I think the whole thing about that is, you know, I think Dan at that point is just like, you know what, fuck it, I'm tired, I don't care.
Yeah, just let me go have a life, please.
I just want to have a fucking life with this beautiful person who I'm now dating.
Yeah, who needs someone to support her because, you know, she just found out that the comedian's her father and literally crashed Mars to pieces with the revelation.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So it's kind of like the villain was right all along and it's fine.
Yeah. There are a lot of shades of grey in this film, and like I said, it's a really interesting watch, and I would suggest that everyone watch it, because it is very interesting, but I personally didn't like it.
Yeah. So, some other things. In the original, in the comic, it's not Dr. Manhattan, like, energy, it's a giant squid monster. Because of course it is. And it's like, aliens have attacked us. Aliens have attacked us.
I realised
Let's unite. Let's unite.
I realise you can't see my facial expression, but it's basically just like, what?
Yeah, it's I would recommend reading the comic as well. But yeah, I just want to dive in. There's a lot we could talk about, but I want to dive in on some actual filmmaking stuff just briefly, because I think it's really well made. Like, it's beautiful to watch. Which is why I love Zack Snyder. You heard it here first. I love him. Because he always makes these beautiful... He's a visual director. They're beautiful.
It is a very pretty film.
And I would say production design is also on point. Very good. Especially, do you like the ship? Like their little ship that they have? That looks like
I love
bug-eyed, like bug thing. It's really good.
I did love the ship. And I love that they named the ship. That's cute.
And then costumes. So we've discussed Dr. Manhattan, how they did that. We've discussed how we kind of don't like Silk Spectre's costumes.
No. It's not a kinda don't like. Okay. It's the first iteration of the Silk Spectre, like, you know, it is overly sexualized, but it's very clear that she wanted to wear it. The second one, it's just spandex. Yeah. I do not like it.
Also, she's wearing nothing underneath that. Like, she establishes that in, like, one of the scenes. So, like, it's literally skin-tight latex.
Why? I don't like it. It's not cool.
No. But then we got Rorschach, who has a beautiful costume. We've discussed the mask, but I think just generally his whole detective thing. He literally looks like an old school detective.
Yeah,
so good.
Yeah,
and he grapple hooks. It's great. He's actually based on The Question, who I mentioned last week. So once again, go read. I might send you some stuff about The Question, but
okay.
And then we have Night Owl, who I think maybe has the best costumes. Like,
I'm not sure.
He's clearly very superhero-esque, but then I just love when he goes to the Arctic. He has like a snow version.
Yeah, like
that looks
just
like a white tiger or
planned
something.
yeah, he's just got it in storage, waiting for this opportunity to
Yeah.
wear it.
And then Ozymandias, yeah. He has a costume which I love only because it's a like joke of the old school Batman suits when they had like nipples and abs on the bat suits. And it's
Yeah.
like, and he's like merchandised his superhero alter ego. So
Yeah.
good.
Which, from a business perspective, actually makes a hell of a lot of
Yeah.
sense.
And he catches a bullet, which he does in the comics.
Like in his hand.
Yeah, which he does in the comics, which is better in the comics because they like say earlier on in the comics, oh, do you reckon you could catch a bullet? And he's like, I don't know, because he's like whole thing he's really fast.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't know, maybe I could catch a bullet. But in this, it like just hits his glove, and like it goes into his hand a bit, but like it's a little bit less of an achievement.
Yeah.
So last thing I'm just going to say on this is a DC film, technically. So
Yeah.
originally it was made as a separate thing, but then Alan Moore sold the rights to DC, and they made a whole bunch of prequel comics and stuff, and they've folded the Watchmen stuff into continuity in the comics now. So Dr. Manhattan basically altered reality in the comics to reboot DC. It's great. But basically Alan Moore, who obviously wrote the comic, isn't credited in the movie.
Yeah, no, he's
So
not.
it just says with art, based on the comic, with art from, I can't remember who does the art for it, but it's kind of like there's just no writer of the comic.
He just doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, and he doesn't like adaptations of his work, so he asked to be removed.
So, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I love this movie just because it's pretty, and I like how in-depth and intense and the characters and everything. And I think it has it has relevance in an age of comic book movies that we're in now. So the comic was kind of like, oh, there's lots of superhero comics, so let's make a critique on that. And now we've had lots of superhero movies, let's make a critique on that, which is kind of what this is.
Yeah.
So I think it's very relevant even today. So moving on to Showdown Throwdown this week.
Hold on, we didn't say whether it's irredeemable or not.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
I feel
So
like
I
feel like I'm biased.
I think this film is redeemable, even though I don't like it.
Fair enough. I won't disagree with that because I love it. So can't really argue with that.
Alright, so this film is redeemable. You should definitely watch it. It's interesting, even if it's not a likeable film.
Yeah, but warning, it is.
It's very intense, and don't watch it if you're a bit squeamish.
Yeah. So Showdown Throwdown this week.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know, we take two characters, sometimes more, and we usually put them into a football field and make them fight. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we compare their fashion sense or decide which one Kayla would rather date.
Which is always fun for me.
This week, we're doing something Watchmen inspired.
Oh dear.
But I didn't want to have people fighting. You know, we've had enough of that.
Okay.
We're gonna go for a rip-off battle. Who is the biggest rip-off of Batman? I've got a list here.
Okay.
I've got five people for you.
All right.
We obviously have two from Watchmen, which are Rorschach and Night Owl.
Yes.
We've got Big Daddy from the Kick-Ass films. Have you seen the Kick-Ass films?
I haven't.
Google it. Just Google a picture.
Okay.
That's all you need to know.
Big Daddy, yeah?
Yep.
I feel kind of dirty just saying Big Daddy, but okay.
We then have Daredevil from the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
People know who Daredevil is. And then I've just thrown on the end Owlman, which is technically also a DC. It's an alternate version of Batman who's evil and dresses like an owl.
Okay.
Because that's normal.
This is not really that's okay. So we're gonna talk about it a little bit, but I know exactly who I'm gonna say.
The rip-off of Batman.
Yeah, we'll talk about it a little bit though. So first up, we have Rorschach, who the biggest rip-off is A, he's a detective style superhero, and B, the voice. Mm-hmm. Clearly, the voice.
Oh, he has a Batman voice.
He has a Batman voice. The first thing I remember thinking when watching Rorschach was, the voice. He's got a Batman voice.
Batman voice.
Batman voice. It's all gravelly and low and kind of like he's been chain smoking for the past 20 years.
Also, I'm fairly sure that's not even a Batman voice because that's like his actual voice. He just doesn't not use that voice.
Oh, I don't know.
Like the whole he's even when he's like in prison and stuff and he's like shouting.
Yeah,
he still uses that voice. So
I think it is just that his voice, but brain says
it's a Batman voice.
Batman voice, but. So, Owlman is a different version of Batman, but I don't think he's like a rip-off as per se, because it's...
No.
It is Batman, but it's not Batman.
It's not Batman.
Yeah, exactly. Who else was on your list? Let's have a think.
Night Owl.
Night Owl. Isn't angsty enough. Just isn't angsty enough.
Yes, but is basically Batman in terms of the superhero aspect. He dresses like Batman and he uses gadgets and he drives a ship thing.
Yeah, but in personality, which is very important, is entirely different.
Yeah. Even the whole winter look thing is a thing that Batman did in the comics back in the 50s. He used to just change his outfit depending on where he was.
Oh.
So that's even like a Batman thing. So Batman.
So, looking at...
We then Daredevil, I don't think...
Daredevil has a completely different premise.
They're just vigilantes at the end of the day. Big Daddy is the last one.
Big Daddy. Looking at photos on the Google, this is clearly the biggest rip-off. Clearly. It's not even fucking difficult. Oh my god.
Oh, he has a Batman voice as well. He does like a Batman voice.
Oh my god.
Because he's played by Nicolas Cage.
Oh my god.
So he does when he's talking normally, he's doing the whole Nicolas Cage voice, and he talks with a Batman voice. It's great.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
So good.
But yeah, no, Big Daddy is easily the biggest rip-off. Easy.
Which is entirely intentional. The whole Kick-Ass, it's actually a different set of comics, comics company, but their whole thing is things are kind of based on those characters.
Yeah.
From the 80s where everyone ripped off everything.
Oh Jesus.
Even themselves. So comic creators used to rip off themselves. So that's always fun.
Yeah, no, easy, babe.
Watch Kick-Ass.
Okay, I will at some point. I've been meaning to for ages, and I just never get around to it.
It's worth it. I watched Kick-Ass 2 again the other day, and they are still so good.
Okay. So
I love them.
What have I been playing recently? It will come as no surprise to anyone that I've been playing, say it with me now kids, Terraria and Animal Crossing. What a fucking surprise!
We're hitting all the beats, all the Rebel Retrospective beats today.
Yeah, we are. That's it. That is all I've been playing. I haven't been doing anything else. I am a bad person to talk to about games, and I don't know why we agreed to do this.
I don't either, because I haven't really... See, Now, they say not to hammer a joke home too many times. I'll certainly bear that in mind. But
Okay.
I unlocked a new mode on my healthy living lifestyle game.
Oh my god!
And that was social interaction. I've actually talked to people.
Oh my god, in this economy?
It was probably the most challenging game modes.
Yeah.
It took me a few attempts to get it right, but
Okay.
eventually, it was good. And yeah, that was it was a new update, and yeah, it's definitely one of the best updates to a game I've seen in a while.
Okay.
So,
Maybe I'll try it out. I'm seeing a friend this afternoon. They're coming with me for a house viewing because I'm an adult and apparently
we don't like adults here.
fuck off. But apparently you're supposed to take someone with you to house viewings, one so you don't die unexpectedly, and you never know. You never know. And
What?
look, I as a young woman am a little bit anxious about going to random houses on my own. I feel like that's fair. And two, so you have a spare pair of eyes to, like, be a second pair of eyes. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. So, yeah, I'm gonna do that this afternoon.
Speaking of updates to games, not a game that I've been playing because I don't own this game.
Okay.
But the new update for Pokemon Sword and Shield came out this week. Which basically is the first real Pokemon game that's had like a DLC upgrade.
Oh.
So they've added a whole new island, and they've basically Sword and Shield was a bit of a concern because it didn't have every previous Pokemon from all the games in.
Okay.
So this update has like added 2 new Pokemon and then like 109 like Pokemon that were in previous games that hadn't been put in this one. So that's pretty cool.
Oh.
And apparently there's going to be more updates for it. So eventually they'll put every Pokemon into it. But yes, that's been really good. I've been watching a lot of stuff about that update. Trying to convince myself to buy the game, but
I mean,
who knows? But
I'm surprised you haven't
it looks really
bought
interesting.
it because, like, with me, I always have to convince myself not to buy things.
I'm the opposite. I have to convince myself whether I should buy something or not.
Oh my god.
But yeah, so that's been an update in the past week that's been really interesting.
Yeah.
To kind of see, and yeah. And also there might be a new Pokemon game announced at some point. I don't know. I can't keep track. I lose track.
Who can keep track of anything these days?
Well, exactly.
No.
But I think that is all we have time for.
Yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this week. Maybe next week we'll have actually played some freaking games.
Just hasn't been a week for playing games, I don't think.
No, I've been busy doing adult things.
Oh well, we will see you next week.
Yep.
Whether you ask us to or not.
Yep, you don't get a choice.
And we hope you all have a very good week.
Alright. Bye.
Bye.